She'll never say it out loud, but what truly attracts a woman isn't your money, your car, or even your body. What pulls her in, what activates something primal inside her, is when she realizes you see her flaws, and you don't flinch. You see the darkness, the manipulative streaks, the insecurity she hides from the world, and instead of pulling away, you stay calm. Not with a dumb smile, but with that sharp look. The look of a man who understands the game. That's the moment you enter a space most men will never reach, because most men are too busy trying to please, trying to be the nice guy, the one who agrees with everything, respects everything, follows every emotional rule she invents. The obedient emotional servant, but not you. You observe. You notice when she exaggerates, when she plays the victim, when she lies to herself. You catch the narcissism disguised as empowerment. You hear the contradictions in her words, and you're not shocked. In fact, it makes you stronger. Because the more you understand her flaws, the more power you have. She starts to realize she can't fool you. She can't put you on a pedestal. You're a mirror, one that reflects who she really is, not who she pretends to be. And then something shifts. The game flips. The woman who used to test men is now trying to decode you. Because now you're dangerous. You're a threat to the mask she wears. You're not a toy she can control. You're the man who sees through her, and that's exactly why she wants you, because you're not deluded. You're not desperate for her approval. You saw the truth and chose to stay, not out of need, but from strength. That gives you leverage. Deep down, every woman knows she has flaws. She tests, she manipulates, she pushes boundaries. But most men don't see it. Most men just react. Most men chase the illusion, but not you. You look her in the eyes and say, maybe, with words, maybe with silence. I see who you are, and I'm still in control. That sentence, even unspoken, triggers something deep. A desire to surrender, to drop the performance, to finally be real. And that moment of emotional exposure turns into pure attraction. You become her escape, not because you save her, but because you don't submit to her illusions. And that makes you unforgettable. But here's the catch. This only works if it's real. You have to actually accept that all women have flaws, just like you do. The difference is you don't pretend not to see them. You acknowledge them, calmly, and say, that's fine, but I'm not your emotional toy. When she feels that level of emotional detachment mixed with masculine presence, she knows you're different. Not because you're better than other men, but because you're not blind. And a man who sees clearly him is a man she can never control, which is exactly why she'll never stop wanting him. Because once she realizes you're not blind, everything changes. You become the only man she has to be real with, the only one she can't predict. And that unpredictability, that's magnetic. Most guys follow a script. They respond to her emotions like clockwork, get cold when she pulls away, get desperate when she goes quiet, get jealous when she tests them. But you don't move unless you decide to. She can throw a storm your way and you'll just stand there watching, silent, collected, amused. Because you've seen storms before. You've been in chaos, you've walked through fire and didn't burn. So her little games, they don't shake you. That calm pressure you carry, that stillness, it terrifies and excites her at the same time. She feels like she's dealing with someone who's dangerous, not because he's violent, but because he's free. Free from her approval, free from her validation, free from the need to be chosen. And the irony is, the moment you stop chasing her approval, she starts chasing yours. This isn't manipulation, it's power. And power doesn't beg. Power observes. It listens, it decides. She's used to being worshipped for her surface, her looks, her body, her sweet words. But when she meets a man who cuts straight through that and sees the emotional chaos behind the mask, she's disarmed. Not by charm, but by clarity. You don't insult her, you don't belittle her, you just see her, and she's not used to. That, she's used to wearing armor, filters, rehearsed emotions. But with you, she realizes none of it works. And that's when the addiction begins. Because most women spend their entire lives building walls just to feel safe. But they don't want to stay behind them. They want a man strong enough to step through those walls, look at the mess behind them and say, "You don't scare me." That sentence is pure emotional seduction. You didn't ask for access. You didn't beg for love. You just walked in and took your seat at the table, not because she invited you, but because you saw the space and knew it was yours. And here's what most guys never understand. Attraction isn't just about being desired, it's about being respected. A woman might sleep with a guy she pities or entertains or temporarily likes, but she will only submit to the man she respects. And respect only comes when she knows you've seen her at her worst, and it didn't change your self-worth. You didn't lower your standards. You didn't lose your mind. You didn't collapse into emotions. You stood still, calm, grounded. That's when she starts shifting. She starts questioning herself. Why doesn't this man chase me like the others? Why does he look at me like he already knows how this ends? What does he see in me that I'm still trying to hide? And the more she questions, the deeper she falls. Because power creates mystery, and mystery creates obsession, especially when it's not forced, especially when it's natural, rooted in emotional strength. That strength doesn't come from faking confidence. It comes from knowing you don't need her, not because you hate her, but because you already own yourself. That's the rarest energy in the world today. A man who isn't trying to be liked. A man who isn't bending just to keep her around. A man who doesn't care if she stays or goes, because either way, he remains unmoved. That's the man she dreams about at night but will never admit it. The man who doesn't try to fix her, doesn't try to rescue her, but also doesn't fall for her games. He just watches, learns, leads. And when she starts to melt, when her cold walls start to fall, he doesn't rush in. He waits, because he knows power is patience. He doesn't need to prove anything. He doesn't chase emotions. He lets her come to him, slowly, voluntarily, willingly. And when she does, it's real. No act, no filter. Just the raw truth of a woman surrendering to a man she finally respects, not out of fear, not out of pressure, but because he's the one who could have destroyed her and chose not to. That mercy, that self-control, that's the most attractive force on the planet. And that's what she'll never forget. You had the power to break her, to expose her, to reject her when you saw her flaws, and you didn't. Not because you were weak, not because you were needy, but because you had no reason to. You were already whole. You weren't there to complete yourself through her. You were there because you chose to be. That choice, that calm, deliberate presence, it unsettles her. It pierces deeper than any compliment, deeper than any scripted pickup line. Because for once in her life, she feels like someone finally saw the monster inside her and didn't run. That scares her, but it also binds her to you emotionally, psychologically, spiritually. She starts feeling exposed, like you've opened a part of her she's never let anyone touch. And the more she resists, the more she's drawn in. Because this isn't about logic anymore, this is biology. You've positioned yourself as the rarest type of man, the one who can walk away at any moment but doesn't. Not because he can't, but because he's in control of his instincts. That level of emotional discipline is lethal. It makes you unforgettable, because most women are addicted to control, but secretly starving for surrender, and they'll only surrender to a man they can't manipulate. You become that man the moment you stop reacting, the moment you stop seeking validation, the moment you detach from outcome and observe instead of chase. You become a fortress. And here's the paradox. When you stop trying to get her, you start owning her thoughts. Not through tricks, not through lines, through silence, through mystery, through unapologetic presence. That's what drives her crazy. You're not performing, you're not pretending to be alpha. You're not flexing for approval, you're just there. Solid, centered, watching everything, saying little, feeling nothing you don't allow, and that self-control? It speaks louder than words. She tests you again. She tries to provoke jealousy. She plays the "I'm not sure what I want" card. She goes cold. Most men panic here. They double text, they beg, they try to fix it. But you don't. You let her spiral, you let her play, you give her silence, because you know something she doesn't. Her chaos only has power if you react to it, and when you don't and she breaks, not because you were cruel, but because you gave her the one thing no one else ever gave her. A mirror. A mirror that doesn't bend. A mirror that doesn't lie. A mirror that reflects her back to herself. Raw, real, unfiltered. That's why she keeps thinking about you. Not because of how you touched her body, but because of how you disarmed her soul. You didn't fall in love with her performance. You saw her weaknesses and didn't flinch. You saw the tears behind her ego, the fear behind her independence, the craving behind her attitude, and you stayed still. That's what separates a man from a boy. Boys chase beauty, men challenge it. Boys collapse when tested, men stay unmoved. And when a woman meets that kind of man, everything in her rewires. Because now you've stepped into her psyche. You've replaced her old frame of control with a new one, yours. And it's subtle. You don't demand anything. You don't argue. You don't negotiate your value. You live it. You embody it. And she either aligns with it or watches you walk away. That's what creates real desire. Not neediness, not flattery, but standards, boundaries, clarity. You don't punish her for her flaws. You just don't reward. Manipulation. You don't compete for her attention, you command it. You don't try to be chosen, you give her the chance to qualify for you. And if she doesn't, you're gone. Not with drama, not with hate, with silence. Because a woman never forgets the man who could have had her, but chose not to. And the longer you remain grounded in your own value, the more she realizes you were the prize the whole time. That realization doesn't just attract her, it haunts her. Because now, she's not trying to impress you, she's trying to be seen again. Trying to feel that rare clarity you brought into her chaos. Trying to relive the moment she felt truly exposed and accepted. That moment becomes addictive. And there's only one place she can find it again, you. And that's where your real power begins, not when she wants you, but when she needs the version of herself she could only access through you. Because that's what most men will never understand. Attraction isn't just about sex, it's not even about status. It's about identity collapse, when you make her feel something so intense, so deep, so raw, that she stops being who she was before you, and starts becoming someone she wants to be. For you. Not because you asked, but because your presence demands it. You didn't force her to submit. You didn't pressure her to soften. It just happened. Because you were the first man who didn't flinch when her mask cracked. The first man who saw through her and didn't run. That's the moment you entered her psyche. Not like the others, those who tried to entertain her, impress her, seduce her with effort. No, you walked in with silence, with presence, with indifference. And that silence told her everything. I see what you're hiding and I'm still not moved. That energy is rare. And because it's rare, it's priceless. And because it's priceless, it's dangerous. You're no longer just a man to her. You're a reference point. The one she measures other men against, the one she compares to every future interaction. And they all come up short. Because they try too hard. Because they react, because they crave what you let go of without blinking. And that mystery, why you didn't chase her, why you didn't need her, why you didn't collapse, it becomes a virus in her mind, infecting every thought, replaying your words, your calmness, your stare, your indifference. She starts chasing closure, not because she wants you back, but because she can't understand why she never had you fully. And that lack of understanding hurts her ego. You cracked her control, you shifted the frame. She thought she was the prize. But you made her work for your attention. You didn't reward beauty. You rewarded honesty. You didn't respond to drama. You responded to truth. And the few moments she gave you truth, she felt something she hadn't felt in years. Peace. Because for once, she wasn't acting. She wasn't pretending. She wasn't manipulating. She was real. And being real is terrifying. But it's also addictive. And now she associates that realness with you. You became a drug, an emotional fix. Not because you said the right things, but because you made her drop the mask. And that's something no man ever did. So even if she leaves, even if she tries to replace you, something in her always returns. Maybe not physically, maybe not with a call or a message, but mentally, emotionally. You're there. in her head, in her fantasies, in her silence. You became the man who didn't beg, didn't chase, didn't collapse. The man who walked into her chaos and didn't blink. The man who made her feel seen. And the truth is, that's all anyone really wants. To be seen without judgment. And you gave her that, without needing her, without falling for her image, without losing your ground. That's why she'll never forget you. Because while other men wanted to sleep with her, you made her feel naked without even touching her. That's not game, that's not manipulation, that's power. The kind that can't be taught, the kind that can't be faked, the kind that comes when a man has done his inner work. When a man has suffered, faced his own darkness, tamed his own chaos, and now he doesn't need to prove anything to anyone, because he knows who he is. That man doesn't chase, he attracts. That man doesn't react, he leads. That man doesn't need attention. He commands it by simply existing, and every time she feels the absence of that energy in the world, she remembers you. She remembers how you looked at her without needing her. She remembers how your silence said more than any love song. She remembers how, in a world full of emotional slaves, you were free, and freedom to a woman who's used to control is the most intoxicating thing she'll ever feel. And now she feels it, your absence like a shadow that never leaves, not loud, not obvious, but always there. She could be in a room full of men, surrounded by attention, compliments, affection, and still feel hollow, because none of them see her, not like you did. None of them penetrate the mask. None of them reach the version of her that you unlocked. And that's the part that haunts her, because you never asked for anything. You never begged to stay. You walked away like a king, walks out of a room unbothered, untouchable, unforgettable, and while she told herself stories, justified your detachment, blamed your silence, deep down she knows the truth. You didn't leave because you didn't care. You left because she wasn't ready to be real. And that truth cuts deeper than any rejection. Because you were available, not emotionally weak, not desperate, but ready. And she wasn't. So now she lives with the consequence. Every time she talks to a new man, there's a voice in the back of her mind whispering, he's not him. Because he's not calm under pressure. He reacts. He tries to win her. He crumbles under her tests. He dances for validation. But you were still, heavy, grounded, like nothing she did could make you lose control of yourself. And that control, that self-possession, that's what she respected more than anything. Because women don't fall in love with the most available man. They fall for the one they can't replace, the one who can look at her chaos and not be consumed by it, the one who doesn't chase the mask but challenges it, the one who's strong enough to hold her darkness without losing his light. That's you. You became her storm shelter, quiet, solid, unmoved. And in that shelter, for the first time, she felt like she could breathe, like she could stop performing, like she could be flawed and still be wanted. Not for the illusion, but for the reality. You taught her something no one else did. That real masculinity doesn't control, it liberates. That real strength doesn't dominate, it creates space. Space for truth, space for vulnerability, space for surrender. And the cruelest part of all, she only realized what she had when you were already gone. That's the price of immaturity, of games, of ego. She tried to win while you were trying to connect. She played to dominate while you stayed still, watching, waiting, knowing. And when she finally looked up, ready to be seen, you were already walking away because your standards were never negotiable. And that's what makes you rare. You don't lower your bar just because she's beautiful. You don't tolerate disrespect just because she's emotional. You don't sacrifice your mission to validate her feelings. You stand where you are and let the world adjust. If she rises to meet you, good. If not, you keep walking. Not because you're cold, but because you've built yourself from the inside out. You've faced your pain, sharpened your discipline, and chosen clarity over comfort. You're not playing the game anymore. You are the game. And when a man becomes the game, women stop trying to play him. They try to understand him, study him, be chosen by him. And she knows, deep down, whether she says it or not, she blew it. She tested a man who didn't need her. She played games with someone who saw right through them. And now, she's left chasing shadows, trying to recreate that feeling, that depth, that mirror you held up to her soul, but it's gone. Because you're not waiting, you're not circling back. You're moving forward, sharper, colder, stronger. And the next time a woman enters your world, she'll feel it too. She'll know instantly. This man can't be manipulated. This man doesn't need me. This man isn't playing. And in that moment, she'll either rise or fall. But you'll stay the same. Because real power isn't loud. It doesn't chase. It doesn't beg. Real power walks alone, and the world makes room for it. And now she can't unsee you. No matter how many smiles she gives away, no matter how many men she lets orbit around her, none of them carry that weight, that silence, that stare that didn't ask for anything but saw everything. It's not love she's chasing anymore. It's that feeling, that sensation of being fully exposed yet strangely safe. You gave her that without a single promise, without a label, without even trying. That's what breaks her. You didn't just walk away. You walked away like it meant nothing, not out of bitterness, not out of revenge. You simply disappeared. And in a world where women are used to being begged, chased, argued with, blocked, and unblocked, called and texted endlessly, you became the exception. The ghost she can't forget. Because you vanished without noise. You didn't try to prove her wrong, you didn't try to explain yourself, you didn't even flinch. That type of detachment doesn't come from arrogance. It comes from mastery. Mastery over yourself. Mastery over desire. Mastery over illusion. You don't chase because you don't need anything outside of you. Not anymore. You've gone through your own hell. You've bled, been betrayed, been ignored, abandoned, broken. And yet here you are. Still. Solid. Whole. That's the man who owns the room without opening his mouth. That's the man who makes other men nervous without lifting a finger. That's the man whose absence feels louder than someone else's presence. And when you become that man, everything shifts. You no longer ask, does she like me? You observe. You measure. You decide. Because you don't fall for lips and curves. You watch for character under pressure. You study how she handles silence. You test without testing, simply by doing nothing and watching her reveal herself. And if she crumbles, you don't judge. You just walk. Because you're not here to fix anyone. You're not here to prove your worth to someone who hasn't earned your time. You're done explaining your value. You've become it, and that terrifies her. Because women are not used to men who are free. A free man is dangerous. He can't be seduced with praise. He can't be controlled with guilt. He can't be steered by sex. He's too focused, too present, too indifferent to the cheap highs of validation. You've seen past the curtain. You know what's behind the game. You've felt what it's like to give everything to someone who couldn't even hold their own truth. And now, you'd rather walk alone than shrink yourself to fit someone's fantasy. That energy is not just powerful, it's sacred. You carry it in your eyes, in your silence, in the way you don't flinch when someone tries to trigger you. And every woman who meets you feels it. They can't explain it. They just know. You're different. You're dangerous in a way that makes them curious, cautious, and completely drawn in. Because you're no longer asking to be loved. You're not seeking connection from a place of emptiness. You are the connection. You are the gravity. And they feel it, especially her, the one who thought she could toy with you. She thought you were like the others. She thought your depth was weakness. She thought your patience was permission. But now she knows you were never waiting. You were watching, calculating, learning. And when the moment was right, you vanished without hate, without a word. Because men like you don't announce your exit. You just never come back. And that's what stings the most. Not the silence. Not the distance. But the realization that you could have stayed and simply chose not to. That's the kind of decision that rewrites her nervous system. That leaves a permanent echo in the places no one else has reached. Now she walks with that void. She talks to others with a fake smile. She posts her happy moments. But none of it scratches the surface. Because when a man like you sees through her and lets go, she doesn't just lose a man. She loses the one person who looked into her storm and didn't break. And now you've become a story. A myth she tells herself in quiet moments. A question that loops in her mind when she can't sleep. You're not just a man anymore. You're the man. The moment she missed. The chapter she can't rewrite. You live not in her phone, not in her DMs, not in her memories. You live in the gap between who she was with you and who she pretends to be without you. Every new face she meets is filtered through your presence. They might be taller, funnier, more available, but they're not you. They don't make her feel seen. They don't create silence that speaks louder than words. They don't make her question herself. You did, because you didn't ask for attention. You created gravity. You didn't need validation. You embodied standard. You didn't move toward her. You stood still and let her come to terms with herself. That stillness? That's what haunts her. Because when she tried to bait you, control you, shake you, she failed. Not because you fought back, but because you didn't move. You let her noise echo into emptiness. You let her games die in the space between your words. And in that silence she met herself. Not the curated version, not the one she shows the world, the real one, the scared one, the one hiding behind control. You showed her her own reflection and then walked away. Not out of cruelty, but because you knew it wasn't your job to fix her. It wasn't your purpose to carry her healing. You gave her the gift most men are too afraid to give, the chance to choose growth. Or stay broken. And she didn't choose, she hesitated, she resisted. And you vanished. That vanishing wasn't an act of ego, it was evolution. A man doesn't wait where he's not respected. A man doesn't stay where he isn't met. A man doesn't explain his worth to someone playing hide and seek with their own truth. So now you walk. Not angry, not bitter, just done. You walk like a king whose throne isn't in any room but in himself. You don't need to conquer others, you've conquered yourself. That's why your presence is so heavy. That's why they can't stop thinking about you. Because you became a mirror, not just to her, but to all of them. Every woman who meets you now feels it, feels the weight of a man who doesn't perform, who doesn't prove, who doesn't bend. A man who lives in full command of himself. They feel it in your voice, in your eyes, in your silence. You say more with one look than others say with 1,000 words. And that's what sets you apart. While the world screams, you whisper. While the world chases, you choose. While the world reacts, you observe. You've outgrown the games, outgrown the mask, outgrown the need to be understood. You're not here to be liked, you're here to lead. And leadership doesn't beg, it doesn't argue, it doesn't plead. It simply is. Like a mountain, like a storm, like truth. That's what you've become. Truth, and truth doesn't need applause. It just needs space. And now every room you enter makes space. Because deep down they all feel it. This man doesn't want anything from us. He's not here to impress. He's not here to chase. He's not here to fix anyone. He's here to build, to expand, to evolve. And if they can't meet you there, you leave them with silence. Because the man you are now understands something most never will. The most powerful move isn't proving your worth. It's walking away and letting your absence say what your presence never needed to.